Hey, welcome to the John A. McCabe Show, where it's all about accelerating your authority in your business or field of expertise. And I do that by helping entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, experts, and speakers get seen, get heard, get noticed on any device, anywhere, anytime, in as little as 15 hours, also known as the Authority Acceleration Blueprint. Now, on today's show, Business Strategy Tuesday, we're going to get into the business of writing, publishing, and launching a book. One of the fastest ways to accelerate your authority is to become a best-selling author. For many, that's a daunting task just to think about, let alone make a reality. There are so many aspects that go into launching a book, from the idea, determining the audience, what you have to say, and what is the best way to convey your message or your story. For so many of us, the biggest hurdle is that we aren't writers, let alone authors or editors. So what does it take? Well, today I'm going to be joined by Joe Bovino and his client, Kelly Barber Conate. Today, we're launching Kelly's book, The Grieving Parent Club, which is being released on her daughter Lexi's 27th birthday. I'm going to get into what it took from start to finish to complete the project, and what kinds of launch strategies that they're using to get the book to #1 bestseller. Now, Joe Bovino is the founder and CEO of Bestseller and You Publishing, an attorney with over 25 years of experience, and the author of 4 Amazon #1 best-selling books on dating and relationships. Now, he spent most of his life in New Jersey, Los Angeles, and Miami, but currently resides in Colombia. Now, Joe resigned from his law job and decided to write a book. Now he has 4 #1 bestsellers, and he'd like to help others who have a great book, a bestseller in them. It's not just about achieving bestseller status, because in some ways that's easy now. It's about being the best that you can be and sharing it with others. And arguably the best way to share one's wisdom, wit, and great ideas with the world is through a book. However, Joe has discovered many people are confused and frustrated with the publishing process. They doubt their own ability to write well and publish a great book. And they think the writing and publishing process is rigged for celebrities and the well-connected. Now Joe helps people with a 3-step process that gets their book out of their head and into the world of in a non-traditional way that works. First, he positions, structures, and outlines the book. Second, they speak the book into existence. And third, he launches it to bestseller status with a goal of making it a #1 bestseller. Now today we're going to learn more about the strategy, not only from Joe himself, but from one of his clients who just went through the process. So don't go away, because when I return, I'm going to be joined by my guests today, Joe Bovino and Kelly Barber Conate. Hey, thanks for joining me on today's show, Business Strategy Tuesday, where we discuss various strategies that will accelerate your authority in your business, while at the same time positioning you as the expert or the authority in your field of expertise. Today we're going to discuss one of the fastest ways you can accelerate your authority, become a best-selling author. We'll get into the business behind what it takes to make that happen by talking with a 4-time #1 best-selling author and publisher, Joe Bovino, as well as his client, Kelly Barber Conate. I keep tripping over that name, Conate, who just launched her book, The Grieving Parents Club, first thing this morning. And earlier today, we spent a few hours online launching Kelly's book on a live cast, where we talked about the book itself, why Kelly wrote it, what her goal is with the book, and much more. But now we're going to talk about and get into the process that she went through with the help of Joe Bovino. Now, Joe has been a guest on the show before and is no stranger to the publishing world. So please give it up with likes, love, shares, and a virtual flurry of thumbs up and heart icons across the screen for my guests today, Joe and Kelly. Welcome, guys.
Hey.
Thanks, John.
It's great seeing you again. It's been all of, 1 hour?
Yeah.
Time for this.
Yeah, so thanks for joining me on the show. And for those who missed the live cast earlier this morning, we talked about Kelly's book, her purpose behind the book. And this show is all going to be all about the business, all about the strategy, all about how Kelly was able to, as I just heard from Joe before we launched, is actually now a #1 best-selling author. How that actually happened from start to finish during the show. So before we get into too much, See, I'm just kind of lost here because normally I do my speed round of questions, and didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare for today's show. But we know the topic quite well. I know the topic quite well. Joe knows the topic, and Kelly's been through the process. So let's dig right into it and start with the very beginning, Joe. When Kelly approached you to do a book and just sort of what's your initial process before you actually get into taking them through your 3-step program? What is the initial client meeting like? What types of things are you trying to get out of the client and to determine if you actually want to take on the project?
Right. I think the first thing is to see if they're a good fit for my process and really if they should be writing a book at all. Whoever comes to me wanting to talk about their idea for a book. I really never wanted to, frankly, I don't like to discourage anyone from writing. If they want to write a book, I think they should do it. But in terms of whether they should work with me, that's a different thing. The first thing I look for is a real passion for the subject matter, whatever it is. It really doesn't matter what it is, as long as the passion is there and the love for the subject. This is a good example of the differences. Like I wrote my books. I'm a lawyer and I have this business, Bestseller New, but I wrote books on dating and relationships because I happen to love that subject and culture and all that. Kelly came with a completely different subject matter, grieving parents and how grieving parents can survive, cope, and heal. So I look, and she really had a passion for the subject because she had such experience in it, and she had these stories that she really wanted to tell, and she felt she could help. She was helping a lot of other people anyway, directly, and this was a book was a way to reach more people with her message. So there was no problem there with the passion and the love for the subject, even though it was a rough one and totally different than my own. The next thing was I looked for expertise. In a nonfiction book of any kind, this was going to be a nonfiction book, not a memoir. We decided that early on too. That's important to decide what your book's going to be. But it was going to be a nonfiction book. The person who's writing it has to have some expertise in the subject matter. Mm-hmm. And expertise it's an unusual word to use in the context of grieving parents and grief. But the truth is that Kelly had plenty of expertise. She lived it. And really the only people, the real experts, are the ones who have lived it. And she lived it for almost 10 years when she came to me. So but once we'd established that, I think the next thing we needed to do was, okay, yeah, I alluded to this, but what kind of a book was it going to be? Was it really just going to be a story, a memoir of you and your daughter, or were you going to be, in a way, guiding other grieving parents? And we pretty quickly came to the conclusion that she wanted to be a guide. She didn't have all the answers, ever claimed to be. She's not. She's very humble, but she has a lot of insight, and so that's how we set it up. We set up the reader as the person who would come to her book as a new reader, probably a grieving parent or somebody who's concerned about the subject, and with a real problem. They come in really concerned, and to try to help them along in their journey, and make sure they're not alone, and to give them some guidance. To really help them to, as we say, survive, cope, and heal. So that's where we started. John, I'll just say, once we got that far, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, I guess, but once we got that far, and then it was a matter of structuring the book and the story, and that was different. That took us some time.
I'm just going to jump in and ask Kelly a couple of questions then. So Kelly, first, what is it that you... why is it that you wanted to write the book? And two, did you have any apprehensions of actually the process or becoming an author, or how did you, was there any hesitations of, I don't even know where to start or what to do? So can you walk us through sort of the process that was going through your mind when you made the decision, I think I want to be an author, but so what did you do?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I had all these stories, and it's something that I have a story to tell. I have ideas. I have things that could help other people, but they would just stay in kind of that idea stage, bouncing around in my head. And again, it wasn't really until I was getting, preparing for what to me was kind of a milestone number, 10 years, and thinking about just hearing on the news, young people dying, being killed and stuff. And it's just like, I really, my heart breaks for them every time I hear the story, because I know exactly how they're feeling. And I really wish I could help them. And I thought, well, what can I do? And I guess you say, well, let's write a book. Personally, I had just finished a couple of years of writing my doctoral dissertation, and the last thing I wanted to do was write. APA is going to give me a heart attack.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's done. I never have to write that again. But I was always scared of writing, and I didn't think, one, I could do it. Two, I think in my own mind, I thought this was a good idea. But would anybody else really want to read it? Is anybody else? I don't have, therapist, psychiatrist, MD, or anything after my name. I'm not a professional expert that went to school for this stuff. Is really, is anybody going to do it? And getting to know Joe and how he went about the books, and I thought, what do I have to lose? Let me just ask him. First of all, is it a good idea? I mean, is it something worth, even trying to go through the process? Is it something that people would want to read? Is it a story that they would want to read? And this was even before we kind of started clarifying it. And he and a lot of other people said, yeah, definitely it is. And thought about it some more and think, well, in my mind, I was still thinking, oh my gosh, I have to write this, and it's going to be going back to English composition and commas and semicolons. Yeah. I really don't want to write. And so I took a few more months, and I finally got to the point where it was like, what? I have something to say, and I hear on the news every day too many people burying their children, and I just want to say it. And so I contacted Joe, and I said, what? Let's just do it. And
so that's
how we got started.
Initially you had some limiting beliefs in whether you could actually do it. And was it through a couple of consultations with Joe that he helped reassure you that yes, you can definitely, you have a valid story that is worth sharing, and that you in fact could actually do this without, knowing and understanding all the grammatical composition needed in order to write a book?
Again, after now having spent 3 years and finally finishing my doctoral dissertation, it was like, I don't want to write. And I had known people who had self-published and things like that, and I just thought, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to ask Joe for help. And we had become friends enough that he said, it's a good idea. If you're not a fit for my process, I'm still going to help you.
Right. And
so that gave me some reassurance, one, that I wasn't going to be alone in, this kind of new venture.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.